Hello, welcome back to Money with Kazeem. Thank you so much for joining me on today's show. In today's episode of the Money with Kazeem show, I'm excited to be sitting down with my brother, Ibraheem Badrudeen, to get a bit of a perspective in terms of his journey through life, to hear his story from going from high school to university to completing that experience. We'll get to hear about his career journey as well as his finances throughout those years. This episode is one that I'm really quite excited for. So let's get straight to it. Welcome to the show, Ibrahim.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to be sitting here talking to you. I feel like we talk every day, but this feels like a different format. Let's get to it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, why don't we start by you introducing yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself, what you've been doing for the last however long you've been doing your career.
All right. So, just a brief synopsis. As you mentioned, this is my brother. My name is Ibrahim. My educational pedigree is in chemical engineering. Worked, starting in sales as a telemarketer, one of those annoying people that calls you when you're at dinner with your family and says, "Hey,
Hold
do you want to buy
on
some stuff?"
here. Hold on here. You're skipping a few steps. Let's go back to the job that you used to do in high school.
All right. Okay, starting from the beginning. Okay, let's go really to the roots here. So, as a kid, we were raised to have entrepreneurial spirit. My mom, my grandma, everybody had a convenience store, so we were not strangers to the value of hard work. So coming to Canada, I think it was like 6 months into being in Canada when my dad said, "Hey man, you need a job. You can't just live in my house for free." So I ended up at Tim Hortons and worked as a baker, sitting in the back of the house, baking donuts and bagels and smelling like coffee at the end of the day. And that was a lot of fun.
That's okay. I
But
was I was too young to be able to engage in that experience. So you get to enjoy what that experience was like.
I know, I don't know if enjoy is the word I would use, but I definitely went through it. But so after high school, I remember one day I was taking out the garbage and the garbage exploded and I was covered in like leftover gross coffee and donuts and whatnot. And I remember standing in the parking lot thinking, this is not what I want to do with my life. Funny enough, a week later, got accepted into chemical engineering technology at SAIT. So I went to SAIT for a couple of years. And after I graduated, couldn't find a job. So ended up working as a technical sales representative at Shaw, which is now Rogers. And then after about 9 months of calling on the phone and selling people internet and email transfer or automatic payment, because you get commission on all those things, I got bored, man. I got to the point where I'm like, I don't think this is what I want to do with my life. So I applied to Lakehead University to get my undergrad in chemical engineering. What they didn't tell you about that is that they say you can do it in 2 years, but you quickly find out that you can do it in 2 years if you have no mental sanity left.
Or you don't have any other life other than
And
school.
sleep is not a thing. Life is not a thing. You
You
work
spend
throughout.
your
So
entire day at the library.
exactly. So I ended up opting to do it in 3 years. And after I graduated from Lakehead University, I graduated right when the oil and gas industry did this. So, so, so I was left with the option of remaining jobless, which was not really an option, or, returning back to what I know best. So I ended up applying to Shaw. Like in between me getting a job at Shaw, though, I remember working as a dish boy for like a day and then realizing this sucks. Like you have leftover food getting in your mouth, there's grease spraying in your air while you're trying to clean it. It was just a horrible job.
I remember a few jobs that you did. You did work for one of those temp companies where you do construction works as well.
Yeah, I worked at Moduline building yeah, I've had a lot of jobs, man. Building like mobile homes. I worked as a window cleaner in the summer. I worked as a roofer in the middle of July. Horrible job, man. Severe sunburn. I worked as a warehouse packer. I worked as a, one of those people that use jackhammers to like nail down railroad spikes. Not a great job, but you meet some really, really interesting characters at this kind of roles. And you learn a lot about life. You kind of learn a lot of what you don't want to be doing with your life, essentially, as you're doing these jobs. So eventually, I landed at Shaw. I worked as a grocery store clerk after graduating at university, actually produce, pulling out strawberries and such and putting it on the counter. And I remember thinking, again, this is not, I mean, I have an engineering degree and I'm unloading trucks. Really? But all of these are a cumulative journey. So I ended up at Shaw and I did sales for about 9 months. And I applied to a role that opened up as an outbound loyalty specialist. And I remember one of the people that was supposed to be my leader at the time telling me, "You're an average performer. I don't think they're going to take you. Why are you applying?" And I remember thinking, how dare you tell me what I'm capable of? I'm going to apply anyway. She told me not to apply, so I did it anyway. I'm not gonna take your permission. Letting you know that this is happening, not taking permission from you.
That's
So
really quite interesting how sometimes people do tend to shorten your career by judging you based on what they observe without really understanding much beyond that, beyond
I think,
your aspiration for your career and what your goals are for the future, right? It's only you that know that.
and I honestly think the true lesson from that is that nobody in the world will actually understand your true capacity but you. And you get to determine where that stops, right? People are always going to tell you what you can or cannot do based on what they know, not what you're capable of. It's up to you to determine, is this true for me or is this just noise? Most of the time, to me, it's noise. I'd rather find out what I'm capable of and then realize, okay, maybe I can't do that, and then take that for me, as opposed
Yeah,
to somebody telling me I can't do it and now I can't do it. No, it feels insulting to me for you to tell me what I'm capable of when you're not me. It feels very insulting. So
yeah,
yeah, I take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, I listen to people's advice and take from it the things that are valuable for me, but majority of the time I discard it if it's not applicable to me.
awesome.
So
All
I
right, well,
applied to this role.
go on.
Sorry.
No, no. I was just gonna say that now that we kind of get a bit about sort of your foundation, but there's one thing that I would like to reverse back because you're missing a little bit of what I would like to get into.
Okay, okay,
Before
okay.
you went into university, you had a conversation with mom where
Yeah.
you wanted to go into music. She had a conversation with you about engineering. So
She
let's
had
have.
that Nigerian conversation. So when I was little, I watched this movie with Ramsey Noah. You know who Ramsey Noah is. He was very popular when we were growing up. And he studied chemical engineering and he couldn't find a job. And he was just kind of goofing around in his backyard one day and he discovered this sticky tar and ended up calling people and they bought it for millions and millions of dollars from his hand, from him. Now, what appealed to me there was not the millions and millions of dollars. It was the intellect that he had to be able to analyze that. Oh shit, this is valuable. Oh, this is really, really valuable. In Nigeria, one of the difference in culture that I kind of had to acclimate to, and I'm sure this is true for you as well, is in Nigeria when I was going to school, the smart people are the popular people. If you are smart, you're considered the celebrity at your school. Coming to Canada, though, it's kind of the opposite. The bigger people, the guy that's good at sport, the guy that can talk to girls, the guy that can sing, kind of, are the popular people. So, like being able to merge those two kind of played an advantage in assimilating into the environment. So, fast forward to graduating high school. On the day that the bag exploded on me at Tim Hortons. I remember coming home and my mom says, I remember I was so tired and I was just so dejected and I was just sitting on the stairs of our two-bedroom apartment. And mom came down and she was like, you know, what happened to that kid that wanted to be a chemical engineer? I hope he's still in there somewhere. And she just kind of walked away. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me. So I went downstairs and applied for SATE, and I applied to NATE as well for laboratory technician. And they didn't accept me. So medical laboratory technician, and I applied to that because that was what dad studied. So I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. But they accepted me at SATE for chemical engineering technology. So I was like, well, might as well pursue that dream that I had when I was a kid. So that's kind of how that conversation set me down the path that I had almost forgotten about. Ideally, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to write, compose. I wanted to act. I wanted to play soccer. And also, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon too. So I had a dream, just like Martin Luther King. I had a bunch of dreams, actually.
No, no, that sounds like you've had quite a lot of different experiences in terms of navigating the experience of growing up in a new country from a Nigerian background to the kind of conversations that often immigrant parents want to have with their kids about making sure they know where they come from and working hard and setting them up for a future better than what they had moving to the new country. Tell us a little bit about what that conversation might have been like for you, having to have that kind of conversation regularly.
Yeah, it did two things. Mom used to say that you're gonna hate me now, but you're gonna thank me later. Essentially, she put a lot of pressure to perform on us. She was very clear that nothing but excellence is expected of us. I think when we first came to high school here, so to give a little
When
bit
you
of
were in
background,
high school, maybe.
when I was in Nigeria, I already finished high school before coming here, and at the time I was maybe like 14, 16, something. And then we got to medicine hat, and they put me in remedial science, so like science 7 and shit. And I remember coming home one time and I told mom asked me, what did you learn in school today? I was like, we learned about litmus paper. She was like, litmus paper, you knew that before you left primary school in Nigeria. I was like, I know, that's what they're teaching us. I don't know what you want from me. She was like, oh, that's got to change. So in typical mom style, she came down and she was like, I need to see your schedule. So she came to our school the next day and she was like yelling in the hallway, like creating problems. And she was she was
That
creating
doesn't
problems.
sound like mom at all, does it?
Oh man, that's true to her nature. She went into the principal's office and she was like yelling at the principal. She was like, no, 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 no. You got to this kid is gonna be a doctor. Put him in the difficult courses. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why are you being so embarrassing? Mr. Grisnovich at the time was like, hey, listen, we want to ease him into the college. He's like, no, 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 he doesn't need ease. If he fails, he'll do it again.
You'll learn to figure it out.
He'll figure it out. You can't fail, okay? If he fails, he'll do it again. Put him in there. So they put me in all of the difficult courses, and I started taking those courses, and majority of those courses were easy because I kind of already did them in Nigeria, so it didn't feel challenging to me. So I was working almost full time at Tim Hortons while also going to school, and I graduated with I think 150 credits in high school. You only need 100 to graduate. So not only did I exceed expectation, I fucking blew it out of the water.
No, that's quite exciting. So looking back, do you think starting work early shaped your how you handle challenges, and how did they kind of maybe change how you reframe the experience from an early age of having to work, and how that framed the way in which you kind of move through the world over time?
You know, there is a dichotomy to that. On the one hand, on the positive hand, it allowed me to build an insatiable thirst for pursuit of growth. Having a job at that young of an age gives you a certain degree of liberty. I no longer have to be like, hey, mom, can I have $5 to go? No, I have the $5. And instead of taking permission to go spend my money, I just spend my money. And it gives you a degree of individuality that you didn't get. But the cost of that is it takes away a little bit of your childhood because now you're no longer seen as incapable. You are very capable, which
Absolutely.
means expectations are placed on you. So I think you can remember some of the arguments that mom and I got into. Hey, Ibrahim, you're using too much water to shower. Fine, I'll
Oh,
pay the
but
utility. Just leave me alone and let me shower.
I don't feel like that conversation was excluded to just you. It was directed at everyone in the house generally, right?
Exactly.
It's
But
often it's often a conversation around, working hard. For her, she
yeah,
sees, you know, I think she saw working hard in this country as a way of sort of creating a future for ourselves and for us in
yeah,
which
it's the ticket. It's the golden
yeah,
ticket.
in which we don't have to necessarily struggle through the life that she's currently going through.
Yeah,
And I felt like that often influences the way in which you sometimes react to situation within that time frame, right? It's
a
things
hundred
that
percent.
we might consider as being difficult. Now, as an adult, I know
You get
what it, what it costs
it.
a lot of money, right? It's
you
not
understand. You
it's not
understand why she
cheap,
said, "Hey, turn off the light, man."
right? Now I barely ever turn my lights on, and and I can afford to do it, right? So those kind of conversation I can imagine were very difficult as a kid for you
Man,
to
as a
have
kid,
to listen to.
you can't conceptualize it because you're like, why she make I just wanted to have a shower. Why is this so difficult? Right. But I also think that, her background, her pedigree kind of affect, influence how she had those conversations too. So I'll give you an example. A little while ago, as you know, mom is staying with me, right? She was in the bathroom and she was showering, and I heard her like pouring water into a bucket and showering with a bucket, and I'm going, what are you doing? There's a shower over there. Like, just open the water and, let it flow. And she's like, no, I don't know how to walk it. Besides, I understand the bucket and shower relationship. There was a time I would have argued. I was just like, cool, are you
You
happy?
do you?
Great. I just left it alone. But I feel like, sometimes the things that you struggle with becomes the things you become familiar with. At the time, having a job became for me to establish my identity, because it's not uncommon for mom to get upset with us and then go, okay, you can't use the internet, you can't use my water, you can't shower. And having a job that says, hey, I'm the one paying the utility, I'm the one paying the internet. If you take the internet away, I just get a new one. I
I
just
can
get a new one.
I can afford to get my own if I need to.
Exactly. And it just kind of program you to become more and more independent instead of, hey, I'm waiting on you to give me permission to do things. I now have the freedom to experiment and become my own person.
Absolutely.
So to answer your initial question, I think there's two sides to it. When kids start working early, as a parent, you also have to understand that they will lose their innocence as they began to work, because now you will have certain expectations of them. Okay, your money that you're making, are you going to save it? Are you going to spend it? That expectation becomes a thing. And that means that they're no longer a child, they're starting to grow up. And with that expectation comes the anxiety of people expect things of me now. I have to deliver.
That's very insightful. Very, very thoughtful. Now, going back to your music days, what did music represent for you? For a lot of people, music can mean freedom, creativity, identity, so many different things, right? I'm curious to get an idea of what that meant for you at that point.
You know, when we were growing up in Nigeria, freedom was music was an escape. When I'm sad, okay, let's take it back to grandma. Grandma had knee issues, right? But every night she had to climb the stairs at grandpa's
Yeah.
house. And do you remember, like, she used to sing this song, Ile Kule, Ile Lataro, Ile
Yes,
Kule. Yeah, right. It
those were
was a while before I realized that it was a way for her to distract herself from the fact that that is a challenging task that she has to do every night. And she's probably been thinking about it all day since she climbed down them stairs, right? Because I have to climb this again tonight. But it's a way for her to distract. And, Saturday morning, when we're not going to the shop right away, she'll put on music and we'll all dance and, whatever. Those were the best times, man. So music became a place for me to escape whenever things got a little bit difficult. Whenever I'm feeling uncomfortable with something, I would sing, I would disappear into music because for that one brief moment, everything is just okay. Right? So that's what music represented to me.
Do you think about what life might have looked like if you had pursued music versus what you currently do now?
No, no. I am fortunate to have found a certain degree of success without even pursuing music. I feel like if I had pursued music, I don't know if I would have been world famous. Maybe I would have performed on stages that I didn't know existed. But that I'm a big Harry Potter fan. And there is a saying in one of the books, I think it was the first book, actually, it is the first book, that says, "It is unwise to dwell on dreams and forget to live." Music was a dream I had when I was a kid, but the life I live now is a dream for some. So I am grateful for it.
It's awesome. That's very, very insightful. What did you learn while you were at State about yourself and later on at Lake Ed University? What were some of the things that you felt you learned during that experience in your life?
That no matter how smart you think you are, you're not as smart as you think you are. That
University
failure,
University sometimes has a way of teaching us that lesson, doesn't it?
man, it humbles you quick. Failure is inevitable, but there is no such thing as failure unless you stop trying. Failure, as most people would describe it, or as educational institutions would describe it, is just an iteration of success, right? You try something that didn't work, you learn something from it, and then try it again with a different iteration, and then it works, right? Also, I learned that the things that you avoid doing often becomes the barrier to success. When I was in high school, I avoided calculus like a plague, man. The very first class I had at SAIT was called Mathematics for Engineers, and it's calculus. I remember sitting in that class,
Oh, I remember
and
you saying that. I remember
and the
you coming
professor
home and
said,
being like, I have to take this class that I've always avoided.
and here's the crazy thing, okay? Here's the crazy lesson behind that. Everybody says calculus is difficult, man. You're taking oh, forget it. You're gonna fail it. And I took that and I internalized that when I was in high school, or rather, they would say calculus is for really, really smart kids. And I immediately internalized that and went, well, I'm not one of them smart kids. I'm just hardworking. So I'm not going to take calculus until I had no choice but to take calculus. I was in that class and I can't remember his name, but this teacher was hilarious, man. He says, "Welcome to Math for Engineers, or as often known, Calculus 101. I grabbed my bag. I was about to walk out because I'm like, I think I'm in the wrong class. I was supposed to be in Math 301 for engineers. Clearly, this is calculus for engineers. I'm going to leave now." And he looked at me and was like, "Hey, hey, where you going?" I was like, "I'm about to leave. I'm in the wrong class." He's like, "Are you an engineering student?" And I was like, "Yeah, chemical engineering." It's like, "Sit down. This is your class." It's like, fuck. So I sat down. I failed that class the first year. And I remember saying, "Kazeem, I failed the class. I can't tell mom that I failed this class. Keep it to yourself." But I
Oh,
failed the
yeah, I
class.
remember that.
But I failed the class, man. This is horrible. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This sucks. I have to find money and pay for it and then do it again. And I spent all summer studying in secret to pass this class. Like I will go to the library in secret and study and try and write the exams and whatnot without mom knowing. And I passed the class before the following semester. The takeaway from there is I learned to confront the things that are scary to me. I learned to accept that you're gonna fail, you're gonna suck at something, and that's okay. The differentiator of success is, do you do it again? Did you learn something? did you take that something that you learned and then apply it to an iteration of your new adventure?
Very, very well said. Many people see education as the straight path to success. What did you learn about the reality behind that idea?
Education is a winding road to success. And okay, let me take a step back. When you say education, I think you mean formal education, going to university and so on and so forth. Yeah. No, that's the starting point to education. What you learn in school is basically how to think. When you leave school, accept that you don't know shit. The only thing you know how to do is think. That's it.
So,
When you get out into the real world will tell you the street education that you need. The education you got in school will tell you how to think about that education that you get it. So to put it in perspective, I ended up working in sales, selling internet cable and phone. After graduating from chemical engineering, the two are not even remotely connected. But I learned the street skills I need to be able to sell, to be able to talk to people, to be able to listen to those subtle changes in their voice that says, this guy is just wasting my time, he's not going to buy. Or to be able to listen to the way he answered that question. I think he's not the right person to be talking to. His wife is the one that makes the decision about phone. So I should ask him to let me talk to his wife. So you learn those subtleties. Fast forward a few years, I now work at a company where my chemical engineering background and my sales skill background are merged into one. And that's what provides my daily bread today. So all those knowledge that I was gaining along the way. So I never got to finish what my professional journey looks like. So I ended up working at Shaw, worked there for 3 years. First 9 months of that, I was selling internet cable and phone. Wasn't the greatest at it, but I didn't suck at it either. But then, like I said, a role opened up. My supervisor at the time told me, hey, man, you're not good enough to apply to this job. So I applied anyway. And I got the job. And I got the job as one of the agents. But because I already know a lot of what they need to teach those agents, I was acting as support for those agents before the person they hired as support arrived from Vancouver. So by acting as a support, the team was growing. I thought, hey, if I work hard, I'm going to get the support role. But when she got here, I got sent back to the phones. And I remember feeling sad a little bit like, man, I got to call people again and do this grind. But a week later, because the team was growing, I got offered the only other support role that was available. The irony of that is there was a more senior agent on the floor, but because he didn't step up and help people in the way that I was doing, he got overlooked for it. So I made myself feasible. I made myself indispensable to the team by saying, hey, I will help you. You have a question? Ask me. No problem. And my ability to memorize things, it just came naturally. I was able to remember all the codes that they need. I was able to help them support the floor. And that leaves my supervisor at the time free to focus on more strategic implementation. So a little while ago, while I was there, sorry, I got that specialist role, and I started to get bored with people asking me questions every day, every time. I started getting bored. So we created this page called The Pipe, and it has all the information on it. So whenever people come to us who go, have you checked the pipe yet? If the answer is no, then go check the pipe and then come back if you don't know it.
if you don't find
Right?
the answer there, yeah.
If you don't find the answer, go check the pipe. I walk to your desk. I will show you how to find the answer so that you never have to ask me that question again. You know the answer to it. So we got to a point where my job now is limited to so as a new team, we didn't have any way of measuring how everyone is performing. They will send me the contract that they sell, whether it's a single play or a double play. A single play is if you sell only one service, like internet, for example. A double play is if you sell internet and cable together. That's a double play, right? And I have to manually track this. So my job now became tracking stuff manually in Excel for about 70, 80. agents. That's a lot. Imagine each one of them do 5 to 6 a day. My chat was going off literally. So I started to think like there's gotta be a way for me to spread this job around so I'm not the only one doing it. Everybody is partaking in it, and that leaves me free. So
Yeah.
I used Excel form to create a quiz that they will fill out every time they get a sale, and then it automatically fills out this Excel sheet for me. And then I use
Uh,
my engineering skills and my mathematical skills to create formulas that I embed into that Excel sheet that automatically calculates everybody's sale, whether it's one play, two play, manually. So it automatically calculates it and I never have to do anything. Now, I did this because I was lazy and I didn't want to do things manually. I I just set it up so I don't have to do anything. That's it.
so you were innovating along the way as well, finding opportunities to find efficiencies within the processes
Yeah,
and
this is too much work. I don't want to fucking do that. I'm gonna find
using
a
that
way to
opportunity
get
to
to do it.
innovate. That's actually very smart. I feel like a lot of people today, right? We often don't take the initiative to find opportunities to innovate within our work environment, right? Looking at things that needs to be improved and adjustments might be needed somewhere, but it can often
So
be very difficult at times to kind of be that guy that goes ahead and make those innovative suggestions.
it's really not though. If it bothers you enough, you'll find a way to do it better. For example, in my case, I'm getting 80 to 90 messages every hour. And I
Hmm,
have to try and put all of that into Excel every hour. I don't want to do that.
that's true.
It takes up
Finding a
majority of
more
my day.
efficient way, a more efficient way of doing that.
So now here's the thing. So now I have a new problem. I have a new problem. I have this Excel sheet, and people at the end of the day will go, okay, so how much did I sell? Like, dude, it's right. Okay, look at the Excel sheet. How much did I sell again? Oh, man. Okay, so you're constantly asking me how many. Okay, there's got to be a better way where they don't have to talk to me at all. They can just look at something and they'll be able to see it. So I started looking around and somebody showed me how to use an HTML code to embed that Excel sheet into a web page. So I did that.
Oh,
So now they don't have to ask me. But then we're also limited with, okay, it doesn't refresh for them automatically. How do I do that? So they're coming back to me and going, well, it's still showing the old number. Okay, how do I do that? All right. So I started looking around and I found how to create a button that they can press on that HTML page that will automatically refresh it. So whenever they want to see it, they just press the button and it refreshes. Okay, we have an issue with duplicates. Some people will submit their things twice. How do I remove that? I found a function in Excel, conditional formatting. And every morning, I just come in, I look at the Excel sheet and remove all of the duplicates. But that's still a manual work. So how do I automatically program it to remove that? I don't want to do anything. I just want to click one button. That's it. So I found a way to write a macro that automatically removes it. You just click one button. Now I have to generate a report. Now, imagine all of this started because I just didn't want to do the work. That's it. That's how it started. I didn't want to do the
oftentimes,
manual labor.
oftentimes finding ways of doing things much more efficiently can often spur innovation, right? That's how bigger companies get bigger, right?
Now
It's
think
figuring.
about this. I created a do DIY tracker essentially. That's what I created. Turns out it became because there's no other way for them to track how the team is performing. So my boss was like, "Hey, Ibrahim, I need you to generate a report that we're gonna send to people." So I generated this report. I thought he was gonna send it to the team. They started using the reports to pay people as a
Oh,
way to pay their commission. They started using the report as something to show the executive level, like, hey, this is how we're performing. Like, okay.
I was not anticipating the. Sometimes the consequences of your decisions go far beyond what you initially anticipated might be.
I did not even imagine that it would be used in the manner that it was used. I didn't picture it at all. It was not conceptually conceived by me. I just find it annoying that I have to do things manually. That's it. That was it. That was all I found. So after a few years, I'd automated that report to the point where my job is now like 5 minutes, and I'm having to spend 8 hours just bullshitting with people. So I was starting to get bored again. My brain was getting itchy. And I was applying to different roles, and I would give these presentations, and they'll go, "Yeah, you were so close, but we found somebody else." Or we tapped somebody else on the shoulder. Well, why did you call me for an interview, man? Let that guy have it. Why are you wasting my time? And this was still within the same organization. And so I started to learn how to play office politics. I tend to be a very direct person. If I don't like something, I'll tell you I don't like it. But when you're in an office environment, that is probably not the best personality to have, because you're going to start to rub people the wrong way. So I started to learn how to say things subtly, like, that's a great idea, but maybe that's not the best approach to implement it. We should think of a more subtle way to deliver it. That's just a subtle way of saying, hey, the way you're going about that is shit, which is how I would have said it before.
I mean, that's a more Nigerian way of saying things. Very
You just
direct.
you get to the point, man. Everybody move on. I remember like applying to a role that I literally have been doing. As a supervisor, there was a supervisory role within my team. I was there to build this team from ground one, from day zero, right? I was there with them. So it's a natural progression for me. I've been doing this role for a while. And I remember going into that interview. I actually called one of my execs at the time, and I was like, hey, listen, I need some advice from you. Going to apply for this role. What should I be looking at? I have experience. I have all of this. She's like, yeah, don't lean too much on your experience. Like, she was typing while she was talking to me, like, your life, your desires don't mean shit at all. That was the message I got from that. And I was so frustrated that I'm applying to all this role within an organization that I so wanted to stay in, but nothing was just happening for me there. And I remember getting the feedback from them that you've applied to too many roles, and that's why we're not promoting you. We want somebody that really wants to stay within the team. And also, your personality is a little too direct. And I remember thinking to myself, if I argue with this person, I'll only be validating what they said. So I said, you're right. Thank you for the feedback. And I left. And I was beyond angry. I was so, so angry. The person that got the job was somebody that I trained, that used my training material to train somebody else. And that was the reason why I got the job. I felt cheated. I felt unappreciated. So I remember coming back to work the next day, and I'm not proud of this, but I wasn't saying good morning to anybody, man. I just sat at my desk and go, hey, if you have a question, ask me. And my boss asked me, like, hey, man, Ibrahim, you're not smiling anymore. Your demeanor has changed. I was like, you don't pay me for my smile. You pay me to do my job. I'm here, I'm doing my job, and I'm going to leave. When 5 minutes before I leave, I go, hey, do you need anything? If you don't need it in the next 5 minutes, I'm out. So I was less friendly with people. Like, I just didn't give a fuck anymore. And I remember I wrote my.
At that point, I feel like you've sort of realized maybe that you're maybe at the end of your career with that organization.
I spent most of my days at that job just applying to jobs, man. Like, I had jobs open on my computer. My
Don't say
boss was
that.
sitting. My boss was sitting. He could see it. My boss was sitting right next to me. He could see what I was doing. He could see that I was applying to jobs because I was that upset that something that feels like a natural transition for me was taken away. And I don't see a different path there. At the time, I am now so grateful that that was how things happened. Because had that been given to me, I probably would still be at that company, I probably would still be in a role that is a little too small for me. I remember one of the agents, I don't want to say her name, said to me, "You're too smart to be here. You need to leave. You're too smart to be here." But it took that event happening for me to start to believe it. Now, serendipitously, I applied to a company called ZI. I had no idea what it did. I didn't even read the job description. I just wanted to leave. I applied to a customer service manager, which is kind of, adjacent to what I was doing at Emerson. I went into that interview. Oh no, I didn't go into that interview. I did a preliminary interview of the phone with the lady that was hiring, and she says, "How much do you want to get paid for this?" And I said, "I want $50,000." At the time, I sure I was making maybe 45, $44,000, I think. I said I want $50,000. To me, $50,000 sounds a lot. I mean,
And it
$5,000 a
was
year. Oh
and
my
it
god,
was more back then too, right? Like,
it
keep in
was.
mind this was before the inflation and everything that we've seen within the last,
Hmm.
however long.
It
It
was.
was. Yeah, it was a livable wage back then. Now 50K is nothing.
Nah, 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 nah. You can't survive on 50K. But I said I want 50K. She's like, for the role that you apply for, the most we're allowed to do is 45K. I was like, no, that feels like a lateral financial move for me. It just doesn't align with what I'm trying to do. She's like, okay. Well, there's this other role. It's an automation engineering specialist. They might consider paying you 50K for it, but it requires an engineering background. I don't know if you're a good fit for it though. Would you be willing to come in and interview? At this point, I was like, fuck it, whatever. The
Right?
worst they could say is no, right? So I went in there, I did the interview. A week later, I get a call. Like, I had forgotten I did this interview. I thought, I'm not going to get it. It's okay. I got a call and it says, "Hey, Ibrahim, it's Mary again. I just want to let you know that we're seriously considering you for this role. We just need references from you." Well, I don't have any references that I want you to talk to yet. So I started looking for friends and people that could potentially vouch for me outside of the organization that I was in, because I didn't want to set something in motion that isn't really. Go back a little bit further. So while I was building all those tracker and all those CRMs, I remember having a conversation with my boss's boss saying, "Hey, listen, I'm doing all of this work, man. I need more money." And it's like, "Well, you've kind of reached the cap for the role. It's the salary cap that we have for your role." I was like, "Okay, so what you're telling me is I need to get a new job to get some new money. Is that what you?" It's like, "Well, I'm not saying you should quit your role, but we've reached the salary cap." I was like, "Bro, don't play that game with me." To get this straight, in order for me to get more money, I need to get up out of here. Is that what you're saying? Or if I stay here, that's all you're gonna pay me? It's like, well, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm not also not saying, that political nonsense that they say when they don't really want to say that. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
So after they said that to me, I just started applying everywhere because I'm like, you know what? These people, they're not gonna pay you. It's okay. So fast forward, I got to ZI, and I remember my first day, and I was sitting, and they were training me by saying, "Look at the screen and look at what this person is doing." Now, one of my challenges is that I have nystagmus, which makes it difficult for me to see things.
Yep. It's part of having albinism.
So I'm having to try and remember what they're saying and memorize as much of what they're saying as possible without seeing the screen. That is incredibly difficult. So I will stay late and ask people questions like, "Hey, so how do you import templates again?" "Okay, now I know what I'm doing." "So how do you click on this again?" "Okay, now I know what I'm doing." And I remember every day I would call mom and just be like, "Mom, this is too hard. I think they're gonna fire me. I'm just gonna quit." And mom would say, "Until they fire you, keep going. But what I need you to do is every Friday when you get paid, buy some donuts, take it into the office, and say thank you to the people that are helping you." It's a subtle change, but man, did they help me more after I started doing that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a tiny little change. So I brought in donuts and I put it. I was like, "Hey guys, listen, I just want to say thank you for welcoming me into the team and for being so supportive. I know I annoy the hell out of you, and I will continue to do that. And I said, thank you for letting me do that. Here's some donuts. Enjoy it." And there were a lot of Nigerians on there, and they loved it, and we just kind of bonded, and they continued to help me. Now, because there is no formalized training and I can't retain everything in my head, I started to document everything that they're saying to me. I started to write it in Word format. So I created the Automation Engineering Training Manual.
Again, you see how he comes up with new solutions for issues that is encountering in his roles.
Exactly. Because I can't remember all the steps I need to commission stuff, but I can do Control F in Word document to find how to do this, right? So I created that. And then I started to use that manual to train new people that are coming in. And then, so in the past, they would bring people from India or people from the Philippines down to Calgary to train them in person here. So I thought to myself, well, what if I just develop PowerPoint presentation that goes through all of these things step by step? It's easy to follow. And then I can just deliver that training. I know what I'm doing. I know how to commission these things. I can just deliver that training remotely. Now the company doesn't have to pay for flights, pay for hotels, pay for meals while they're here. They can just sit at their desk. I deliver the training, but it goes a step further. I can record that training. Now I never have to do it again, and it gets uploaded into a main portal where it's what's now the standard for training people before I left my old role. So after doing that, a role opened at Emerson. Well, Emerson, ZI got acquired by Emerson. A role opened there for customer solutions engineering. Was very late to it. Again, I was feeling an imposter syndrome. I don't think I'm smart enough to do this role. Those are the rock stars. They know everything about everything. Why would I apply to this role? And I remember calling my friend that was leaving that role, and he's also my mentor. I called him and I was like, dude, I was thinking about applying for this role, man, but I don't know. People in that role, they tend to know a lot. And it's like, Ibrahim, I think you have the right background, skills, and personality to be successful in that role. But I can't tell you to apply or not apply. That's a personal choice you have to make. So I've been now the role has been open past sorry, the role has been closed for about 2 weeks now. It's past the closing date.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I grabbed my resume, I dusted it off, and then I sent an email to the HR. I was like, I know that I'm 2 weeks behind when I should have applied for this role, but I want to let you know that I'm interested in this role. And if you will consider me, I'd be happy to interview for the role. So they said to me, oh, you get an interview, no problem. And I interviewed for the role. Now, here's the thing. All throughout my 3 years as an automation engineering specialist, whenever somebody said they need help, I was there, man. I jumped in. I was there to help them. Whenever, let's say I'm working on call and somebody randomly called me and go, Ibrahim, I'm troubleshooting this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. Fuck, no problem, man. I got you. So, okay, this is what you need to do. Blah, 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 blah. As I was going through the interview process for this automation engineering solution, sorry, customer solution engineering role, one of the people or a couple of the people that I used to help started whispering in the team lead's ear. It's like, no, this is the guy you need to hire. This is the guy. We want this guy on the team. So it didn't even matter how I performed within that interview. People already gave me the stamp of approval before I even knew it.
That's interesting. That's very incredible. Like it's so interesting how we think, oh, your resume is gonna tell people the story. But sometimes it's about who you know within the agency and people who are gonna vouch for your credibility and your ability to be able to do the job. Sometimes
It's
that
not
goes a
what you
long
it's not
way.
just what you know though. It's not just who you know though. It's
No,
what
no,
you have
I'm saying that
done.
that goes a long way sometimes, right? In
It
combination
does.
with a bunch of other factors as well, right?
You are 100% right. But it's also what you've done to gain the confidence of those people. Now
That's
imagine
so
like when they call me and say, "Hey, I need your help," and I go, "Man, I'm busy. Leave me alone. This is not my job." Or when they ask me like, "Hey, if I were waiting for them to create the training program and going, well, it's not my job. Why should I create a training program?" I just took it on. I started mentoring the people because, well, I want to make sure they can do the job right so I don't have to fix it later. So it's not an inconvenience for me later. That's really why I took it on, right? But it paid dividends. So my advice is not take on additional projects. My advice is solve the problems that bothers you because it probably bothers other people.
that's a very
Solve
big,
the problem that bothers you because it
big
probably
one.
bothers other people. Don't take the approach of that's not my job. Go, how can I do this better, easier, faster, lazier? I want to just spend the least amount of time doing this and get the best possible result. How do I make that happen? That's the same question everybody else is asking, but doing nothing about. You just happen to be the person that does something about it.
That's incredible insight. And thank you for sharing that. I think that that's something that I think a lot of our viewers would probably take away from this interview. It's something that I personally have learned quite a lot from you about, right? Is figuring out ways to solve problems that other people are too lazy to think about. You've talked a lot about that tough period after school, applying for job, facing rejections, and working at Superstore. What was going through your mind during that time?
I'm almost abashed to say this, but for the most part, I was thinking, why did I even bother going to school, man? Like, if I were gonna end up packing groceries and shit, I should have just started doing that in high school. I would be farther along in life right now. Why am I doing this? Man, I paid $65,000 for a chemical engineering degree, and I have nothing to show for it. $65,000 in student loan. God damn, that was what was going through my head. And I think you and I had a couple of conversations where I was saying, I don't think this is worth. I don't think
Yeah,
I want to go return my degree
yeah,
and say,
I
give me my
remember
money
that
back.
conversation very well, where you're like, I think I'm gonna go return my degree and then get my money back. And I
I
was
try to
like,
make it work, man. It doesn't work. Give me my money. I want a refund.
I was like, even if you're not utilizing the degree in the way that you anticipate that you will be utilizing it, I think the skills that you often gain from that experience can be very applicable to other roles, right?
And yeah, so all those skills were what actually took a while to start to pay dividends. So the role that I'm in right now, the chemical engineering background is definitely necessary. You need to understand process operations. You need to understand process optimization. But you also need to understand how to sell to people. You also need to understand how to operate around people. You also need to understand how to build rapport with people. So all those little skills that I was picking up along the way have now coalesced into a package that pays dividends essentially. And I'm sure there are other skills that I will continue to learn along the way that maybe I think of as a throwaway skills that later becomes that's the thing that pays, right?
That's excellent. We've kind of walked a little bit about the different jobs that you've taken from high school to college to give on this show. We really like to talk about money, right? Give us an understanding of what that financial trajectory looks like within the different role, from your first initial job, negotiation, all of that stuff that we really love enjoying and having a discussion about.
Okay. So I'm not gonna talk about my actual salary. So
Yeah, but just give a range. Give a range.
everything that I'm gonna use is gonna be arbitrary number, but it's
Yeah,
gonna be
give
to
a range.
scale so that you understand. Before I went to university, after I graduated, I was making $17 an hour. Now this was in 2012. $17 an hour is pretty solid amount of money. I was living in my ex's basement at the time with her. Well, my ex's grandmother's basement at the time. So I was paying $450 in rent a month. And I was banking like, I don't know, $3,000, $4,000 a month. No, wait, $17 an hour times 40 hours a week. I was making about $3,000 if you factor in commissions. Put that with you're paying $450. Let's say you spend at most maybe $500 on food and going out and whatever. That's 950. You pay, let's say, I don't know, $800 in taxes. You still have $2,000 left. So I was saving by the end of that 6 months, I had saved about $10,000.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Now,
So
when you said you were saving it, were you just putting it in a bank account? Were you investing
I was
it?
just so at the time I didn't have the financial literacy to know how to invest it, and I was too afraid to give anybody my money.
Yes,
So
yes.
I was putting it in a bank account and I was saving it, and that was part of what paid for my first semester of university. Having that money really did help. It helped set the foundation for the habits that I needed in the future. And also, so to go back, the first job that I had was actually at ALS Laboratory after university. And I got laid off from that job. But because I already had the habit of, it was a contract job. When my contract expired, they didn't renew it. So because I already have the habit of, I'm going to save a portion of my paycheck monthly, no matter what that is. Something has to go into my savings. I have to pay myself. My future self, essentially, is how I view it. Pay your future self so that your future self will have money. When I got
Absolutely.
laid off from that job, I had a good enough chunk of money that for 6 months, if I didn't work, I'll be okay. However, me being a worry worth is I don't want to wait 6 months to find another job. So I hit the streets the next day. I went to Manpower. I did all these things, and Manpower basically said, "Hey, there is a sales job and a technical sales role, technical representative. So troubleshooting internet and cable over the phone. Which one do you want?" Now, the sales job, customer service representative job, pays $15 an hour, but you make $10 for everything that you sell. The technical role pays $17 an hour, but you make $5 for everything that you sell. I took the technical route because the base is higher, but I kind of regret doing that because if I had taken the sales role, I would have killed. I would have made bank in that role because on average, for the 9 months that I was doing that, for the 9 to 6 months that I was doing that role, I was the top salesperson for the technical team. I was the top salesperson. Hindsight being what it is, I didn't know what that was. At the
I mean,
time,
I
too.
guess at that point, right, like the idea of security, right? We often think
Yeah.
about the idea of, knowing that we're for sure gonna have this amount coming in, and that
So
can
I picked
often
the
be,
higher amount.
yeah, that can often be very reassuring, right, when you're taking a new role. But
Exactly.
over time,
At the time, I was also offered stock options, 10,000 stock options. The thing is, I had no idea what stock option is. I didn't know if it was valuable, why it was valuable. So I didn't even pay attention to it at all. So when I
I
left
mean,
all those
stock
stock
option
options.
can be good and it can also be bad depending on how well the company is doing, right? That's one thing I
Yeah.
always talk about.
But the thing is, the stock option was $13 strike price. And when that company got acquired, the stock option was worth $45. So I left a lot of money on the table by not being financially literate. So for anyone that's listening, if you don't understand something, at the time there was no chat GPT, but there was Google. And I knew better. I knew well enough to Google things, but I didn't care enough to read it. That was on me. So if you don't understand something in any contract that you're reading, you have ChatGPT. You actually have zero reason to be ignorant. You can Google whatever you don't know. You can put it into ChatGPT. You can try and figure it out. But make sure you know that you're not leaving money on the table. I wouldn't say I regret it per se because I don't know what I didn't know at the time. But if I had it to do over again, I'd fix that.
Hindsight is definitely 2020 on that one as well.
It was an expensive lesson to learn, but it was a lesson I learned well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go on. You've shared a little bit about what that looked like at the beginning, and then tell us a bit more as to how you negotiate yourself into a position where you are making a significant amount of money now.
So, over a 10-year career period, you will acquire skills. Make sure you acquire the right one. Whenever a project is difficult, I generally volunteer for it. Whenever something seems like there's a high risk of failure, I probably want to be a part of it because I'm going to learn something that I can tell as a story. So that me developing that Excel spreadsheet that they were using for tracking stuff, me developing the training program, those are my story. Those are
Yeah.
stories and skills that I can now tell in interviews, right? So all of that combined together, along with the educational background, placed me in a position where when I'm negotiating salary, I can confidently say, this is where I want to be. I can confidently say, I know what my skill sets are worth because this company and this company and this company are paying this much, this much, this much for that similar role. So the way I like to negotiate is when they ask me, hey, what is your desired salary range? I don't like to give a number simply because I don't know what you expect me to do for that money. So how about you tell me what you're willing to pay for it and what you're asking me to do for it? And then I will analyze it against what other people are telling me to do. And then I'll be able to tell you, okay, this is how much you should pay me.
So you've shared a little bit about your strategy often when it comes to negotiation. Now, what were some of the things that you found that was successful in terms of that strategy, and what were some of the things that you found challenging in using that strategy?
Well, in using that strategy, you have to be able to say what you're saying confidently. You also have to have done your research so that you don't leave money on the table. And more importantly, you have to be able to say it in a way that tells the right story. What I mean by that is this: if you go, well, how about you just tell me how much you're willing to pay, and then I'll let you know if that's okay. You're not going to get a response. They're just going to be like, this guy's a waste of time. But if you say, hey, listen, I generally like to evaluate compensation from a holistic standpoint, not just the base salary, but also what the company has to offer as a whole. From a benefit standpoint, stock standpoint, some company offer higher stock but lower base salary. So how about this? How about you tell me about the entire compensation package, including the basis salary range. That way I can make an informed decision based on the requirement of this role.
Yeah, it's looking at the total package, guys. It's not about just, what the salary is, right?
The
Finding other.
salary can be good, but the benefits is horrible. Or the
Yeah,
benefits can be really good, but the salary is.
absolutely. It's about looking at, what does the overall compensation package looks like, and making sure that you're positioning yourself well to be able to take advantage of whatever opportunities are presented during the negotiation period. Thank you
And
so
also
much for sharing that.
keep in mind that oftentimes people forget to negotiate for the intangibles, not necessarily money. You can negotiate for more days off. You can negotiate for where you work. You can negotiate. I don't want to work in an office. I want to be able to work anywhere. Can I work outside of the country if I choose to? If for you, travel is important. For me, travel is important. I want to be able to travel. It's something I recently discovered that I enjoy doing a lot. So I want to be able to do that. But I also don't want to have to take a day off to do it. I want to be able to do it while I'm still working. So maybe I'm willing to take a little bit less money if you give me that freedom.
Interesting. That's very, very interesting. You've shared a lot in terms of sort of what you think about when you're negotiating for salary increases and entering new roles. But you've also now shared with us that it's not just about the salary itself, it's about the overall package. what were some of the challenges that you encounter when maybe negotiating for other things other than the salary?
I wouldn't say challenges per se. I would just say that if you're job hunting, you will run into situations where your skills are undervalued. It's just a fact of life, it's a fact of consumerism. People want to buy quality stuff for a lower price. It's not so different for skill set. So it is not uncommon to run into conversations where the positioning and the amount that they're willing to pay is significantly less than what they should be paying for your skill set. And learning to say no to those things can be a challenge, right? Learning to say, hey, listen, I think you might be looking for a more junior personnel for this role. Where my skill set is and where my career trajectory has been, I don't think that this is a justifiable amount.
Very good. When it comes to investing and managing your money, what does that look like for you?
It's a multi pronged approach. Managing your money means managing your debt. So, priority is getting out of debt, paying off my mortgage, which has been a long time coming, but it's progressing very well. But also at the same time, using investing as a way to minimize tax burden. So, for example, maxing out your RSP contribution if you have the financial capacity. If you don't, and having cash flow is important to you, at least contribute. The minimum you should be contributing is the maximum your company is willing to match. If
I
you think
mean,
about it this way,
if you have RSP,
RSP matching, the minimum you should be contributing is the maximum that your company is willing to match. If they say we'll match 4% of your paycheck, you should contribute 4% of your paycheck because you are getting 100% return on investment immediately, not to mention whatever growth is on top of that. So, in terms of investing, I like to do two things. I like to contribute monthly to my RSP and whatnot, but I also like to have opportunity cash at hand. What I mean by opportunity cash is, I'll give you an example. When Trump announced tariff on China importing Nvidia, I that was a big opportunity to buy some stocks, so I bought some. And I just happened to have some money around where I'm like, thank goodness, man, I was able to buy the S&P 500 and Nvidia as well. And at the time when I bought it, it was Nvidia was $100, I think. Now it's trading at about 180 or 190. S&P 500 was trading at about 460 at the time. Now it's trading, I think, at about 500 or $600. So the point is that when everybody's panicking, I basically look at things and go, what are the companies that have been successful for a very long time? How's this panic affecting them? Am I getting a discount on the purchase? Like if things were normal, where would their price be? Okay, they would be at 500, but right now they're trading at about $450. That's a $50 potential increase when market recover. I'll place a bet on that.
interesting. I think that's an excellent and prudent way to kind of look at investment. I think anyone that's looking at investment wants to be able to see returns on that investment, right? So, as we always say on this channel, like the investment roller coaster of ups and down in the markets, you have to be able to utilize it to your advantage when it comes to growing your wealth and growing your money for the future. So, we're coming up to an hour on this show. What are some of the questions that you've been thinking about in terms of your future financial goals and your future financial career aspirations?
When do I want to retire? What's my exit strategy? How do I want to live when I retire? What's the quality of life that I aspire to have? What's the legacy that I want to leave for my future progeny? What does that look like from a financial standpoint and from an ethics and value standpoint? Am I doing the things that I'm proud of today? If not, how do I change that? What do I need to do differently to change that? So, yeah, those are just a few questions. that
All
I'm
really
cutting out.
excellent, excellent questions. And I think a lot of people should be thinking about those things, right?
Yeah,
We often sometimes wait till very last minute to start thinking about those questions, but I feel like, kind of getting those questions in our mind and processing them can often give us insight into where we're looking to go.
yeah,
Well,
100%. The impacts could be tremendous.
anyways, thank you so much for joining me on today's show. I've really quite admired your career over the last, I want to say, 15 years that you've been in the work environment, and what you've been doing has been inspiring for me. And I thought that this would be kind of an opportunity for you to share some of the things that you've shared with me with my audience on this channel.
Happy to
Thank
hear
you
it,
so
man.
much for being so generous with your time, your advice, and your ideas on how people can improve their career and improve their finances. Thank you for coming on today's show.
It was my pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to do it whenever you have me. Pleasure talking to you as always. Now I'm gonna pick on you after we get off this phone.
Okay, bye. Hold on.